Good evening, distinguished delegates, ladies and gentlemen, online participants. I am honored to welcome you to this important topic of discussion, connecting the dots, youth and the National Implementation Plan. We are delighted to have the opportunity to host this youth side event for the second time at the 2023 Conference of the Parties to the Basel, Rotterdam and Stockholm Convention. And we express our gratitude to the BRS Secretariat for this support. This event is co-hosted by several esteemed organizations, including the International Pollutant Elimination Network, IPEN, ACO Foundation, African Youth Alliance for Chemicals and Waste, AYAC, the Chemicals and Waste Youth Platform of the Major Group, Environmental Youth Action Network, and with the support of the Geneva Environment Network. My name is Kwame Fori, and I serve as the executive director for both ACO Foundation and AYAC for the Chemicals and Waste Platform. Our organization is proud to be a member of IPEN, and I will be serving as your moderator for this evening side event. Thank you all for joining us, and we look forward for a fruitful discussion. That is how the program will go. We will begin with a keynote speaker from, or the keynote speech from the Chief Executive Officer for Environmental Protection Agency, Ghana, who will set the tone for discussion on youth and the National Implementation Plan to the Stockholm Convention. This side event precisely is about how youth or young people can connect to the National Implementation Plan in our various constituencies. And over the years, persistent organic pollution endanger future generations. The implementation of the Stockholm Convention is the key to enhancing, integrating intergenerational equity and toxic-free future. However, the participation of youth is still limited. Engagement with youth around the chemicals and waste is crucial, but often overlooked. A much larger proportion of youth do not have the opportunity to fully develop their potential and contribute effectively to the development agenda. According to the Stockholm Convention, Article 7, under the Convention, this National Implementation Plan are crucial component in ensuring crops are not harmful to human health or the environment. This brief outline focus on enable youth or young people active participation in the National Implementation Plan. And we have in our midst distinguished delegate that will help us do that. Without wasting much time, I invite our keynote speaker from Environmental Protection Agency, who has been with us for a long time. What I would say is that he's a very wonderful man, still a youth in the heart. And we have a blend of young youth in the heart. I'm happy to see this wonderful delegation, and I believe that today, this evening, we'll have a wonderful event. So without wasting much time, shall we invite our Honorable Henry Kobler to give us the key, Dr. Henry Kobler to give us the keynote speech. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Greetings from Ghana, particularly from the President of the Republic, Nana Akufo-Addo, and the Minister for Environment, Science, Technology, and Innovation. Distinguished ladies and gentlemen, it is my pleasure to be here today to join in the discussion on the critical topic regarding the youth and their role in the development and implementation of national implementation plans and IPs to the Stockholm Convention. My thanks to the government of Switzerland for hosting the 2023 BRS COPs, including these important events. Dear delegates, as we work towards protecting human health and the environment from the exposure to persistent organic pollutants, i.e. POPs, we must recognize that the youth have a crucial role to play in this effort. As we all know, pose significant risks to human health and the environment due to their persistency, toxicity, and ability to travel long distances through the air and water. The Stockholm Convention is a crucial or critical tool in addressing these risks and mitigating their impact. However, the sources of the convention relies not only on the actions of governments and policymakers, but also on the active involvement of all stakeholders, including young people. Young people are not only the future leaders and decision makers of our societies, but also the ones who are most impacted by environmental degradation and pollution, including POPs. They have unique perspectives and innovative ideas that can help in the development and implementation of effective NIPs at the national level that promote sustainable development and protect human health and the environment. This, therefore, calls for the urgent need to bridge the gap, and that is connecting the dots between decision makers and the youth, who constitutes an important stakeholder in the effective implementation of the Stockholm Convention at all levels of society. At this point, colleagues, permit me to share with you some few statistics. The global population, according to United Nations, 16% between 15 to 24 years are youth, and it constitutes 1.2 billion people. It is estimated that by 2030, when SDGs targets are due, they will constitute 1.3 billion as an increment of 7% within the coming 7 years. Africa population, according to the World Economic Forum, September 2022, 60%, that's people under 25 years, constitute 60% of African population. And it is also estimated that by 2030, they will contribute 42% of global youth, representing 546 million Africans. In my own country, Ghana, according to the Ghana Statistical Service of 2022, 57% of the population are under 25 years. And this translates to about 17.1 million people if you juxtapose that one to the national population of 30 million. Having said all that, it is not gainsaying that the youth is important, not only within this scope, but the running of the whole global architecture. By connecting the dots, we can harness the power of the younger generation to create a positive change. Young people can contribute immensely to the development and implementation of NIPs by sharing their knowledge, experiences, and innovative ideas, especially using the electronic media for creating awareness on POPs, and by actively participating in the decision-making process. We must provide young people with the necessary tools, as in skill sets, resources, and platforms, just like the one we do have here at the BRS. This will enable them to participate effectively and efficiently in the development and implementation of NIPs. This includes creating opportunities for youth engagement, fostering mentorship and leadership programs, and investing in education and capacity building initiatives. In conclusion, distinguished ladies and gentlemen, the involvement of youth in the development and implementation of NIPs through the Stockholm Convention is vital. By empowering young people and connecting the dots between youth and NIPs, we can ensure a sustainable and healthier future for all. Let us therefore offer the teeming and energetic youth in our countries the unique opportunity by joining forces together with them to develop and implement workable NIPs in order to create a world where young people can thrive and contribute to the protection of human health and the environment. Thank you, distinguished delegates, for your kind attention, and I look forward to working with you all, especially the youth, towards POP's free future and a very successful encounter this evening. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Honorable, for such an assurance. We believe that we'll do that and we'll connect the dot. I hope that you still have some questions to ask, but questions will come later. We'll take presentation from our distinguished delegate, and later on, we'll fill up with questions. And at the same time, after the questions, we'll have questions from you as well. So we invite another person who has been in this process for a very long time. And for past years, he has been working with BRS for quite a very long time. And he also have youth at heart. And without saying a lot of things, I'll invite Dr. Sam Edukumi, Executive Director, Environmental Health Consult and Environmental Youth Action Network, IPEN Ghana, to also present us with a presentation on the NIPs. Shall we do it for him?
Thank you so much, Mr. Kwame Ofori, and good evening, distinguished delegates to this side event. I think we are 1 week already through, and this week is very critical for us here. Some of us have been living here after 10 p.m. almost every day, and today is no exception. We still wait and then complete, but we need to find time also to attend this meeting. Very important. So we need energetic youth in our work. So my work is actually to talk about NIPs, what the NIPs are, status, and then some challenges in development implementation. So first of all, I think Kwame has already, mentioned what the NIPs are, and I just want to add that it's an important obligation of the country parties under the Stockholm Convention and Article 7 to prepare national implementation plans to protect human health and environment. And NIP actually is a formal planning document which defines a country's commitments, current situation, and actions which it plans to undertake in the phase of post-management. And they are essential tools for the ESM, environmental sound management of POPs. So any delay in NIP development actually could impact the implementation of measures to control POPs at the national level, regional level, and global levels. So NIPs are normally initial steps in identifying actions that need to be undertaken. So activities which are undertaken as part of NIP will also support the implementation of certain articles, for example, Article 9, which is about information exchange, Article 10, information awareness and education, Article 11, research, development, monitoring. So the measures, the actions and activities which are outlined in the NIP is actually help to reduce and ultimately eliminate POPs and other toxic substances. If I take Ghana's NIP, for example, we have outlined the priority areas that require attention for Ghana to realize the objectives of the convention, because there are country obligations, and since we are party, we need to ensure that our populations are protected and environment as well from the harmful impacts of POPs. And some of the things include the following: improving the policy and the legal framework, the institutional strengthening and capacity building, and the development of appropriate and environmentally sound technologies, cleaner production and promotion of BAT-BEP. I'm talking about best available techniques and best environmental practices. And then adoption of green and sustainable chemistry concepts as well as circular economy strategies. If I look at the global outlook, I got this information from the Secretariat, so it's not mine. Yes. So countries continue to, submit or transmit their NIPs to the Secretariat, to the COP. But if you look at the trend, we began with the initial 12 POPs. So for that one, about 95% of the parties submitted their NIPs. But if you look at the second submission, for the amendment of 2009, only 58% transmitted. And also, again, if you look at 2011 amendment, 54% submitted. And for the more recently listed POPs, the transmission rule going to the Secretary is even lower. That means that there's a decline in the transmission. So there must be a problem which we need to address. And I believe that even as we judge all this evening, we'll be looking at some of the challenges that we need to put in place to resolve. So it means that very few parties submit their NIPs on time, actually, and the submission depends on how the NIPs are funded. If it's a JEF funding, developing and updating the NIP, they are likely to be submitted later after the deadlines because, there are a lot of challenges with the implementation as well. So, for example, Ghana submitted its first NIP, 2000 edition, in 2008, and then we managed to submit the 2018 edition in 2020. Our NIP is to be updated because since 2018, when we did updates, between that time now, there are a lot of chemicals that have been added as well. So we need to cover those ones, but we are yet to prepare. And I believe that many countries are like that, especially from developing countries, because of challenges that we know. So talking about key challenges and recommendations, let me here try to see what I can dig down deep within me, because I was the one who coordinated the first and the second NIP, so I have a lot of experience in that. So what we do is that there are two ways of doing the NIP. Some countries prefer giving the activity or the preparation to a consultant to undertake. That means one person or a small group of people get a contract and then, they begin to work. In other instances, we take as a national work and then we strategize. For example, what I've realized is that those countries who took the work to consultant, it's one person or two people doing the work. And it's really huge, I can assure you. Two people doing this work, it's not the best. So at the end of the day, you have to go to the ministry, department, agencies to even collect information. And I can assure you, to get information data from ministry department agencies is not going to be easy for you. So at the end of the day, they may not be able to collect the needed information, and therefore, to me, it may mean that there will be some potholes or some data gaps in the NIP. In our case, we develop a strategy. For example, we put in place, I think we all know that there's also a guidance document that help in the preparation of the NIP, which have been developed by the COP and the UNITA, for example. So here, you set in place a national mechanism, coordinating mechanism. You put in place like a steering committee, which we call the National Coordination Team, and also some tax teams. And because it's about inventory development. So you develop, the document, there's so many inventories developed by the chemicals that have been listed. So you develop the tax teams, and then you look at the country level, who are the stakeholders well versed in the areas, and then you bring them together as teams, and then charge them to do work. I think in that way, you're able to cover a lot of ground because they are the same people who have the data at the national level. So when you are taxing them, and of course, motivate them was on the, the money for the project, they are ready to work, and you get the information. But then it's also important that you are always on them because it takes a long time for them to even provide the information that they have gotten. And even after they have gotten the information, how to put all together is another challenge. You need to have a committed team that will do that and be on them all the time. And then you have to go to stakeholder consultation a number of times for people to review the document to find out what you have in there is really a reflection of what's on the ground. So financial constraints, even the teams, data, and time constraints are all challenges that we need to face, especially in our part of the world. And as I said, data gaps are also there. Especially, you can get information on what they call the legacy POPs, the pesticides that have been used over time, and some of the natural chemicals like PCBs in transformers and capacitors. When it comes to the new POPs, everything is since we new. So it's difficult to really get such information. So that's where we are challenges like the new POPs. We need to find strategies how to get them because most of us even know what is being imported to the country or being used. So I think I will end here, Mr. Moderator, and then allow question time, and then I can put in more as well. Thank you.
Thank you. I think there are a lot of questions in the room, but we'll still take our third presentation from no other person but our family. You know, we've heard a lot of wisdom in the room. So I'll call upon Sanon Lisa. You know, we've heard from a perspective. So we are looking at the diaspora, those from the other parts of the world that also engage in some of this process. So I'll invite Sanon Lisa, who is, she's the interim global focal person for Chemicals and Waste Youth Platform, major group for children and youth. Sanon, I think the ball is in your court now.
Thank you very much for the floor. And hello, everyone. Thank you so much again for joining this session, which is what I believe marking a time of transformation for youth engagement in the BRS MEAs. I'm Shannon. I'm based in the United States, and as Kwame already did a great job introducing, I'm the interim global focal point of the Chemicals and Waste Youth Platform. I'm 25 now, but when I was 17, I started on a path of investigating leaking, abandoned toxic waste sites around my community in central New Jersey, pouring through hundreds of pages of technical documents that had long been collecting dust in the bottom of a drawer somewhere in a government file room. This eventually expanded into toxic detective work around the country and internationally, and I recognized the same pattern repeating again and again. If any of you have ever played the word game Mad Libs, when it comes to the representation of communities that are harmed by chemical pollution and waste, you can change the name of the country, the type of industry and chemical, but the underlying narrative ends up reading the same. The most impacted groups are frequently excluded from decisions that affect their lives and homes. This has led me to join you here at the BRS COPS, along with my fellow panelists who share a vision for a better way forward towards inclusive, youth-responsive chemicals policymaking. To frame children and young people's engagement in chemicals and waste policymaking to date, we tend to summarize our demographic as being the most harmed but the least heard. It is well recognized by UNEP, the MEAs and policy frameworks, and the scientific community that children and young people experience heightened and unique vulnerabilities to adverse impacts from environmental degradation, including intergenerational risk. This severe level of risk has not necessarily translated proportionally to the chemicals policymaking processes targeting outreach to children and young people. Generally, nor do documents and texts of the conventions explicitly recognize and identify priorities to prevent harm to children and young people. And this is perhaps visualized well in a chart that was produced by SciCam, which is the Strategic Approach to International Chemicals Management, and one of the first, possibly only, stakeholder analysis in a UN chemicals process that tracked youth as its own category. And for stakeholder participation across nearly 15 years, from 2006 to 2020, youth were a mere blip on the radar, between 0 and 2% of total stakeholders. And SciCam is an open, multi-stakeholder and multi-sectoral model compared to the party-driven process of the MEAs. So if the open SciCam process has low youth engagement, then there's clearly even a wider gap in the MEAs. So this was our starting point, from a place of low to no youth engagement in the chemicals processes of the UN system. And as such, we convened a new self-organized chemicals youth constituency through the Major Group of Children and Youth, which was launched in February 2021 as the Chemicals and Waste Youth Platform. Our goal is to engage children and youth in the design, implementation, monitoring, follow-up, and review of chemicals and waste agendas at all levels. We are now engaging across the full range of processes in the UN, SciCam, BRS, Minamata, the INC Plastics Treaty negotiations, and the Science Policy Panel on Chemicals, Waste, and Pollution being developed. Our membership is universal in nature and currently consists of over 600 youth organizations and young individuals from all regions of the world. And many of our members are professional scientists, policy experts, environmental lawyers, and grassroots organizers in their own right, all between the ages of 13 and 35, who combine their technical knowledge with the direct experience of a young person seeing the impact chemicals and waste has on their bodies and communities. And this brings a pretty unique perspective to the policymaking table, having experience and expertise in our own right, while being able to speak directly to the specific vulnerabilities and needs of young people. We have a coordination team. The coordination team performs the functions of governance, policy coherence, and regional and thematic coordination. And we are all volunteers, dedicating our time and talents to expanding meaningful youth engagements, not only in the respective UN divisions and policy frameworks and MEAs, but across 11 regional and thematic portfolios that are listed on your screen. Our social media handles are at Chemicals Waste, and we have a new website under development at chemicalswasteyouth.org. And we look forward to working with you all to expanding youth engagement in the chemical space at the UN and beyond. And with that, I will pass back to our moderator, Kwame. Thank you so much.
Thank you. Thank you, Shannon. Okay, so we'll still continue. I think, should we take some questions or let's finish before? Okay, so let's finish. We invite Lame Gata. Is the Registrar of Pesticide and Hazardous Chemicals, National Environmental Agency, the Gambia, to also tell us the success stories of involving youth in some of the NITS process. So shall we invite him?
Okay. Don't know if I am sitting at the right place. Can you hear me?
Yeah, okay.
Okay, thank you very much. I am not the best at giving speeches. I would have preferred a presentation, but we had a breach of communication. Okay, nonetheless, I am glad to give a presentation and share experiences of the Gambia with regards to the NIP development. I've been fortunate enough, the Gambia developed its first NIP in 2009. Then I was going to university, I guess. We also had to update the NIP in 2019, which I participated fully as a technical assistant to the national coordinator. So currently we are implementing the global NIP. We are among the 21 countries that are implementing the global NIP. And I am fortunate and lucky enough to be the national coordinator of the project. So on that note, thank you all for your participation. My speech goes as follows. On behalf of the government of the Gambia and our delegation here, our delegation being led by my Executive Director, Dr. Baji, I am delighted to give a speech on youths and national implementation plans on the Stockholm Convention on persistent organic pollutants at our country perspective. You will all recall that the Stockholm Convention under Article 7 of the Stockholm Convention requires parties to endeavor to develop and update implementation plans as an obligation under this convention. Once our NIPs are developed, parties are required to transmit and periodically also review and update as appropriate. NIP development in the Gambia allow us as a country to assess our national capacities on POPs, chemicals, and other related issues, particularly waste. This includes our legislative and regulatory framework and institutional capacities, both in the formal and in the formal sector. Ladies and gentlemen, it is prudent to emphasize that the Gambia does not produce chemicals of any such, but the NIP inventory done as part of our development process gave us significant quantities, quantitative and quantitative data on POP pesticides, particularly that the Gambia is agriculture sits on top of our activities. Annex C, chemicals that are listed in Annex 6C, that is unintentional POPs, and also a few industrial chemicals that are found in articles. The Gambia is currently in the process of developing its NIP under the Global NIP project. This is going to give us an opportunity to update our NIP for the second time. We are among the 21 beneficiary countries of the Global NIP project, been implemented in collaboration with the African Institute South Africa. The Global NIP has 5 major components, and Component 3 will be implemented exclusively by countries at national level. Component 3 of the project focuses on development, review, and update of respective NIPs at national level, and also takes into consideration reporting following the methodologies developed by the Stockholm Convention as approved by the COP. Ladies and gentlemen, since the inception of the project the Global NIP project, the Gambia is the first country to actually conduct a national inception of the project at national level. The Gambia underscores the importance of youth participation in NIP development process, particularly in data collection, knowledge sharing, and information exchange. During the official kickstart of the project, participants emanating from the Ministry of our Youth and Sports and also National Youth Councils were in participation. In addition, renowned youth organizations, for example, Youth Volunteers for Environment, Women Initiative, the Gambia, and Gambia Environment Alliance, these are youth organizations that were fully in participation during the inception meeting. In retrospect, Young Volunteers for Environment have been contracted by my institution as the National Environment Agency to implement specific pilot activities under our current PCBs and UPOPs project to build capacities. The assignment entails the engagement of local communities through awareness raising on sound management of chemicals and waste to minimize UPOPs emission via public media. Ladies and gentlemen, youths make up a greater proportion of our labor force, particularly involved in activities such as waste management from all sectors, from upstream, midstream, and downstream level. Youths are also, they play a crucial role in trade, including electronic and electrical equipment, and also in agriculture. During such activities, we understand that youths are exposed to dangerous chemicals, both directly and indirectly. Therefore, their full participation in NIP development will provide vital information during inventories. As of our last census in 2013, which was conducted by the Gambia Bureau of Statistics, GBOS, 21.4% and 27.2% of our total population are within the age bracket of 15 to 24 years, and also 13 to 30 years, respectively. Looking at the Gambia, a small country of a population of 2.5 million, a population percentage of 21.4 and 37.2% is quite significant. Finally, ladies and gentlemen, we as a country in the Gambia will continue to engage youth groups both in the formal and informal sector in all stages of our NIP development process because of the important roles they play in information generation and dissemination. If we go by the age bracket of 13 to 30, I was a youth when I first participated in the update of our NIP. So therefore, youths are crucial in terms of the NIP development. So on the final note, as we say in chemistry, if you are not part of the solution, you will be part of the precipitate. So therefore, we think that youths are important in the entire NIP process. I thank you all for your kind attention. Submit. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you. If you are not part of the solution, you will surely not be part of the participation. Thank you. So, shall we invite Dr. Yannick Onan from Ivory Coast to also give us his presentation.
Thank you, Mr. Kwame. I met Mr. Kwame at Lomé just at the end of the last month. So he invited me at this event. Thank you very much. Thank you, everybody, for taking part of this important event. My name is Yannick. I'm from African Center of Environmental Health, an NGO member of IPEN. Sorry. An NGO member of IPEN that work mainly in the design of plan and policies toward African states and African civil society organization. I'm a member of this panel because of the experience of my organization in assisting several African countries in conducting projects aiming at helping them to move towards an environmentally sustainable management of chemical. I will speak more about the need of inclusion of young instead of the role of young in management of the chemical and the waste in African country. Chemical and the waste are just as dangerous as microorganisms such as COVID-19, Ebola virus, or any other pathogenic organism. As such, they should be treated with equal seriousness and urgency, as the effects are less visible but more tragic, with repercussion for future generation. We still remember the victim of the Minamata Bay health disaster in Japan. We must therefore act now. What should be the role of youth in achievement of this goal? For example, at the national consumption level, as African population is mostly young, youth should be more involved on the NIP's implementation process with strong youth involvement in national, sub-regional, and regional environmental policies. More training is needed to meet current environmental challenge. At the top and the worst in health and environment level, young can be associated at the National Pop Inventory as example of Gambia and Ghana. Youth, the most exposed to industrial waste and largest consumer at the chemical should be included in the inventory. Medical data should be generated to better understand the level in intoxication for better decision-making after the inventories. The involvement in the institutional evaluation of POP management in the national POP and POP was disease surveillance and at the level of ecological damage analysis. In the inventory training unit and research center should be further included. It is in our school and university that we can reach the most young people able to influence the fight against hazardous chemical through research work. At the level of chemical management plant, analysis of gap and expression of need to meet the challenge. Youth should be involved in the development of national action plan for the elimination of chemical substance by youth parliament, women organization, different type of minorities, including indigenous people in the local language. At the education training and capacity building level, this is the aspect that will need to stress it more if you really want to include youth in the implementation of NIPs. If necessary, this training and awareness raising should be included in the local language, but by including or reinforce the concept of chemical pollutant and waste management in academic course or agriculture and environment. Awareness raising and participation of youth in chemical management activities, communicating comfortably about chemical in social media, organize debate on the BRS Stockholm Convention in school and university, etc. So I think these are some kind process on kind field where we can involve young activities to better implement NIPs in our different African countries. So thank you for.
Thank you. Thank you, Dr. Lame, for wonderful ways that youth can engage in some of these processes. We'll take our last speaker, then we'll take some questions from you, and then we'll bring the curtains to a close. So, shall we invite Perrin Nkosi Asande, who is from Zambia, a principal inspector, Zambia Environmental Management Agency. Shall we invite her? Okay, you can have your presentation.
Thank you, Kwame, and thank you everybody for coming and being part of this important event. I'm Perrin Nkosi Kasonde. I'm the Principal Inspector from Zambia Environmental Management Agency. I'm privileged to be part of a panel tonight. And for me, this is a special moment in that when Zambia was developing the first NIP, I was actually a student and as an intern for Zambia Environmental Management Agency. That was about 17 years ago. Yeah, so I was part of the technical working groups that were put together. My job then was to make sure that I take notes as meetings were going on to produce a report for every meeting. So to really talk about youths involved in the NIP process. For me, I think it's a great privilege because I learned a lot as a student on attachment. So today I'll talk about the NIP process, what we had gone through as Zambia to develop our first, to develop our NIP, and also the updated NIP, which I was fully involved. In terms of Zambia's status, we became signatories to the Stockholm Convention in 2001. And thereafter, we started the development of the NIP, the first NIP, the one that I was involved in. And then 2006, we became party to the convention, and we submitted our first NIP in 2009. 2017, we revised and updated the NIP. And right now, we are glad to be part of a ongoing project, which is a global NIP, to update the NIP further. I'll talk about the NIP process as we followed it. We had 4 components, and in those particular components, we looked at the establishment of a coordination mechanism. So we went back to the coordinating mechanism that we had used in our first NIP in order for us to just relook that coordination mechanism, because we felt we already had a wealth of experts that we had worked with in the first NIP. And then we also established a new inventories for the new POPs. And then we also had in component 3, we assessed national capacities in terms, and also priority setting for the management of the new POPs. And finally, in component 4, we had the formulation of the NIP. So, of course, in the first component, we went back to our records and looked at the stakeholders that we had, the ones that we had involved in the first NIP. And of course, we formed 4 working groups. So we had a working group on industrial POPs. We had a technical working group on unintended POPs. And then we also had one for pesticides and one for PCBs. I'm glad to indicate that actually our PCB, we have a PCB project that we're implementing under the regional center, which is Africa Institute, and it was actually born out of the information that we had collected under the NIPS. And because I was a youth that was involved, I'm privileged to be coordinating that particular project. So you see how far it can be when you involve the youth. At the point of involving them, you're actually building their capacity. And because they're future leaders, here I am, and I'm sitting on this panel because I was given a chance to be part of the process. In the second phase, where we looked at the national inventory, we did a desk review of the first NIP, and we formulated a work plan from there. And then we went on to develop the inventories. So the inventories were, of course, developed in thematic areas. And like Dr. Sam had said, it is easier, even with other projects, when you do it through technical working groups. So we went back and formed technical working groups, and these technical working groups were actually multi-stakeholder in terms of membership. So we had line ministries, we had experts from academia, we also had different fields like communication, we also had people from labor. So that actually made our NIP very, very rich in that we were working with experts from different fields. After we did the inventories, we submitted the inventory for review, of course. And after it was reviewed, we went on to phase 3 to set our priority assessment and objective settings. So Under that particular component, we did a legal review of our legislation. So we looked at the Environmental Management Act and relevant statutory instruments and other legal instruments that touch on issues to do with chemicals management. So we looked at the Public Health Act, we looked at the Employment Act, and all those acts that really we felt we should look at and see whether they've actually included issues of chemicals and POPs in order for us to look at the capacities of those particular institutions to manage POPs. So we also looked at the monitoring and analytical and enforcement capacity for Zambia in totality. So with that particular one, we looked at the institutions, we looked at the infrastructure. Do we have necessary infrastructure and all that? We also did a socio-economic assessment of the POPs and to just make sure that our work was put together nicely. We involved 4 consultants. So those 4 consultants were actually attached to each technical group, working group. So the 4 technical working groups had a consultant each who we are feeding information in as a technical working group for them to put that information together. Thereafter, of course, we had the report, and our last part was now the formulation of a national implementation plan, because now we had the necessary information and we had to put everything together. So once we had the national implementation plan formulated, we took it for stakeholder validation, and just to see that we had the information right. Remember, when we're doing the stakeholder engagement in terms of data collection, we needed to validate the data that we had gotten from them. So we did that in form of a workshop. So we called all the relevant stakeholders to look at the documents, to look at the information that was in that document, and really to validate. And to also make the NEP authentic, we also did the institutional validation. So within the ZEMA, Zambia Environmental Management Agency, we had the management also validates the report. We had our ministry also validate the report, and that made it very authentic. And then we also developed action plans that were focused on industrial pesticides, and then industrial chemicals, pesticides, and PCBs. After that, we did the submission of the NEP, and of course, we in this particular endorsement and submission, we had our final approval and implementation of the NEP's action plan, and that's where I was talking about the PCB project was born out of there. We have the ChemOps project being born out of there. We also have other many projects that have been developed because of the NEP. And for me, it's a very important document when it comes to the youths, because they would have information, they would also input into a process that will affect them in the future when we're not around, and we'll be able to connect with them with the things that are actually happening now and be able to connect in the future. So what are my recommendations when it comes to involving the youth? Capacity should be built in the youth, so there should be a policy where we deliberately train the youth. Like the previous speaker had said, I think that's what we need to do. We could also embed it in the school curriculum at a level of the universities, colleges. So we could already start that information. And then we can also involve them as stakeholders, like the previous speaker said. So when we're having those national validation meetings, the inspection meetings, let them be involved. And even at the time of data collection, let's ask them what is happening to them, what are the things that they are observing, because actually I've realized that youths are very observant, and sometimes we get to ignore and think they are just immature, but they really are very inquisitive and they know what's happening around them. Then also we develop an awareness program within the national implementation plans that is targeted at youth. So in our action plans, we should have that particular part which is in black and white, so that we should be able to implement those and develop projects that will actually bring the youth on board. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Thank you. Thank you. And I think we will take some questions, because I wanted to take some, but it's better we take questions from the audience. So we start. Let's see the number of people who have questions. And when you are directing your question, you should make sure you direct your question. Or if it's general, let us know that it's general. But if you are directing it, you direct it to someone that you want to ask. So we have Eswatini. Okay. So you can take the floor.
Thank you, moderator, from Eswatini. Thank you for the wonderful presentation. They are very insightful. Also, I think we can take a leave as African member states to take some of the strategies that are brought on the table. I will direct my question to the last speaker. Not that since you're the last one, I'm trying to target you, but I like the strategy that was undertaken in terms of influencing the youth. Not too long ago in the afternoon, I was talking to my counterparts from South Africa, discussing issues that the youth is being left behind when it comes to national development. It could be politics, business, entrepreneurship. If I may ask my sister, how were you able to cut that gap in terms of tapping your knowledge and your influence to our youth? Thank you.
Thank you. You can take it.
Thank you very much. At Zambia Environmental Management Agency, we have a communications unit, and through that particular unit, we involve or engage the youths. We work with the University of Zambia under the School of Natural Sciences. There is a group of youths, so they have an association of youths in environment. So what we do is that we use this particular group as one of the groups that we can reach out to, and also reach out to university students. And then we also use days like World Environment Day, all those commemorations. So what we do is we go to schools, and for the primary schools, we involve them in a quiz. So in that particular quiz, the intention is to actually educate them about various issues in chemicals and waste management. And recently, we've actually had an engagement with the National Curriculum Development Center, where deliberately we called them and communicated our intent to make sure that the national curriculum involves chemicals and waste management. And we've made strides. We've actually had them start revising the national curriculum, and it's our hope that before this year ends, our national curriculum actually will have a strong component on waste and chemicals management. Thank you.
Thank you. Any more questions? Okay.
Thank you. Thank you so much for this for the panelists' intervention. I've learned a lot. I am Verona Colantes Lebale. I am the Senior Gender Specialist of the Global Environment Facility. So just to be transparent, this is my first time following the BRS process. I'm familiar with the Rio Conventions process, and I've seen how the youth, women, and other groups have engaged in those processes. So for me, it's a very, it's a good learning experience to hear and to learn how youth are engaging in the chemicals and wastes. So this is my, I'm here to do some outreach. The JEF is having its assembly, the 7th JEF assembly. And we are also with the mandate for broader, broadening the base and including as many stakeholders as possible. So I'm happy to see that there are these very active voices and the youth, and I would be glad to engage with you after this to see how you can bring these voices into our forum. Yeah, thank you.
Thank you. This is a positive one, and we are very grateful to engage. We are more open. Any more questions? Okay.
Hi, I'm Charles from the UK. I was going to direct this to Yannick because you mentioned it in your slides, but I'd also love to get anyone else's opinions if they've had any experience. My question is, how have you managed to engage in social media with the youths for a subject which most people will find kind of dull and not particularly interesting? It's waste. Us all in here, we may well have a bit more of an interest, but the general public, it's not something which they necessarily want to spend their time looking at. Thanks.
Thank you very much. For example, for Côte d'Ivoire, where I'm from, and also for Brazzaville, Congo-Brazzaville, where I'm working on the project of the UNEP. We have a focal point at the different university at the local level, and we work with them. When we have some information to share with the youth, we share the information with the focal point, and the focal point organize a debate at the university level with the students and discuss with them on the issue and find the opinion and bring us this opinion, and then we take into account in the development of the different projects. That's a kind of methodology we use to bring young in our activities in the different country where we were. Yeah.
Yeah, thank you. Okay, so you come in. I think Shannon needs to make a reflection, because one of the things that we do as part of IPEN Youth and AYAC, African Youth Alliance for Chemicals and Waste, is to use the social media platforms. When you look even at the AYAC platform, we have over 32 African countries, young organizations and scientists, at the same time individuals who are using this platform to communicate in terms of chemicals and waste. The same thing applies to the chemical and waste major group, which is also a vibrant group that we all fall under. And as partners, we do use the social media from a lot in terms of WhatsApp, in terms of Facebook, Twitter, and other things. So I will allow Shannon to also talk a bit. Then Lamel will come in. Then we take one questions, and I think we bring the curtains to a close. Thank you.
Yeah, thank you very much for such an important question, particularly, us being a universal self-organized youth constituency that's internationally based. We are going to rely on those digital tools for both outreach as well as capacity building within the constituency. And we think we've been doing quite a good job. You know, there's always room for improvement, but just in the last year, I believe our membership has increased from 100 constituency members in the Chemicals and Waste Youth Platform to now over 600. That includes youth individuals and youth-led organizations focused on chemicals, waste, pollution, sustainability topics. You know, we like also taking advantage of forums like this, which is also being streamed online. We do a lot of webinars. We hosted one for the International Day for Zero Waste, the first ever one being hosted in the General Assembly. We put on our own youth event for that, and it's taking advantage of opportunities like this that really bring youth into the issue. You know, a lot of youth are familiar with climate change and biodiversity. I like to kind of joke that chemicals, waste, and pollution is the forgotten middle child of the triple planetary crisis, but, you know, linking with existing and longer, you know, established youth movements and climate change and how, you know, chemicals, waste, and pollution feeds into climate change, biodiversity loss, has also brought new voices into the process that might not have known, you know, chemicals and waste processes on an international level in the UN. And maybe just one more point on this too, in terms of, you know, the beauty of social media and connecting online. You know, between now at the BRS COPs and leading into the ICCM5, you know, SciCam conference in September this year, we're hosting a series of both online and in-person regional consultations with young people around the world, particularly targeting the most underrepresented voices, LDCs and small island developing states, towards the development of a global youth declaration on chemicals and waste and a youth policy paper that will be presented at ICCM5. So that will be a significant use of our online tools to get those voices to feed into the process. But thank you for the question. Thank you, Kwame, for the floor.
Thank you. Lamia, you can take the floor.
Yeah, I just wanted to add on to the question that was asked, the involvement of how frequent do we use the social media. My colleague is sitting over there. We have a small organization in the Gambia from the university. They call it the Chemical Society Group, which we are part of, even though we are not in the university, but they have over 100, almost 200 members of the social media group. And in this group, we are fortunate enough to push issues regarding chemicals, waste, persistent organic pollutants. And sometimes my colleague ventures into very critical discussions because you understand that a lot of them are students, do not have a very good understanding of these chemicals, how chemicals interact in the environment, what effects they cause to human health and the environment. So we take this opportunity to interact with them always. And also there is a new trend in the Gambia where youth organizations are increasing. People are establishing their own institutions. And once they establish these organizations, their first point of call is at the National Environment Agency. They want to go into a memorandum of understanding. And then as youths, we consider ourselves as youths, we are now trying by all means to get them involved, particularly in our activities. We assign them rules. Sometimes we invite them as resource persons because they are out there. They have a lot of interaction with younger people. Like Perrine also said, we also celebrate what we call the National Environment Day. Most of the time we invite schools to our institution. We have exhibition day, where every program area in the agency displays some of the activities, and you'll be surprised that a lot of these kids coming from primary school, they may not know, for instance, if you say DDT, dichlorodiphenyl, they may not know what it means, but they are very good with identifying signs and symbols. You know, you can see kids from primary school can tell you, grade 1, 2, I have seen this particular symbol on a sprayer in our house, or maybe a disinfectant like flammability and stuff. So I think we are on the right track, and we keep pushing, particularly social media. Thank you.
We'll take, is there any question? Let's see, there's one here. Okay. Okay, so you can come forward and pick the mic since we are.
Sure.
Oh, we are online, so it's better. Yeah, thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you very much. From Sierra Leone. Want to thank all of the presenters. Very eye-opening presentations. But I agree with the UK. Sometimes there's a disconnect between the information we want to give out and the receivers, how they receive it. So especially for some of us, the older youths, because like Lamin said, we might be trying to explain it in technical terms. So it's not really a question, but just an advice. Although it is very important for education and awareness raising, we have to try and explain it in such a way that the youth will need to hear it. Maybe symbols, like Lamin said, or maybe also explaining things maybe using cartoons and that kind of way. Thank you.
Thank you. There's input. So there's no more question. I'll put one question to Dr. Sam, and we have remarks from Honorable. Then we'll bring the curtains to a close. Dr. Sam, from your experience, what do you think can be done best? Looking at the gap between young people and the wisdom that we have in some of these conferences and instruments. Because when you look at some of the presentation, when you look at the statistics that we have in connection with even SciCam, you see that the participation of young people is quite limited. And there are a lot of wisdom when it comes to chemicals and stuff like that. Is there a way that youth can still bridge that gaps when it comes to issues in connection with chemicals? Thank you.
Thank you so much, Kwame. I like my brother from Sierra Leone. He said that. Do you say adult youth or the youth? The youth. So, Kwame, I like your energy. You know, I remember last year you tried to attend the COP, but you were denied visa because they told that you are young. When you come here, you can go back home. And you persisted, and this year you are here and you're organizing this meeting at your own cost, which is very laudable, you know. So that is the zeal that we need from the youth. First of all, you must position yourself to attract, also, or to be joined, or that's how we can connect the dots. The train is moving. The youth nowadays, your objectives, your intention in life, is somewhere else. I believe that you as an ambassador can assist in this direction. Let us organize ourselves and then maybe attract them by education. I mentioned 3 important aspects of the convention, Articles 9, 10, and 11. It's all also about youth because youth are the university and research, youth are in the general public, youth are the one who are in the information age. This age is for the youth. You see, so if they want to really be part of it, they can. But we also have the responsibility to also, at the top there, stretch our hands and then bring them up. But we need champions like you. Let's create champions, in society. Let's not give up. I told you that the work is frustrating and at times very boring. You need motivation. But if few of us can be champions and also be able to bring down by talking to them, using the social media as you mentioned and other means. Nowadays, the media are very powerful, you know, not only the social, but the print, electronic. They are very powerful. Let's devise means of getting them. Otherwise, the attention will be on something else. but we need to tell them that the foundation we are laying is for them. If you develop the NIPS, I forgot to tell, the NIPS have been developed. Some of them are on the shelves because we don't have the means of implementation. And we keep on adding them. I believe that the youth that can really help in the implementation. So please let us find ways to do that. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you very much. We take remarks from our chairman, and we bring the curtains to a close. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Kwame. I have every good reasons to thank all the presenters and all those who have made contributions, either by questions or by comments and suggestions. There are a few things that had come to fore, and I'd like to share with you that we do all agree that the youth constitute a significant proportion of the global population, with the African continent in the lead, providing 60% of the youth. And then also, there is an existence of youthful exuberance that needs to be leveraged on. I mean, the synergies that comes with it, the expertise, grassroots participation, and all that. You've also been told that the youth and children are the most vulnerable and affected by this environmental menace that you're talking about, as per Shannon's disposition. Having gathered all these ideas and all that, I think it has paved way for my colleague talked about the older youth, but those of us who are real youths. I mean, the challenge is on us. The onus is on us to grapple the advantages and the opportunities that are being offered through these NIPs and all that. It is also a truism that in an attempt to get the youth on board to tackle this environmental crusade, the whole effort is at war, and it is competing with serious interest within the youth camp. That is sports, entertainment, career development, and then family development. The man or the lady is about 17, 18, 20, 25, thinking about future career build-up and all that, either in the medicine or at law or engineering, something, thinking seriously. And then also how to get married. Around 30 to 25, our ladies will tell you, they are all much on the agenda, the priority list. There are those who take up to entertainment, the artists, and trying to develop, come to fame as quick as possible. And then you are bothering them with chemicals, pops, and all those things. Do you think you can penetrate? That is a huge challenge that we need to confront. So ambassadors like Shannon, like my lady there, yes, at that tender age, had the opportunity and also the courage to venture into some of these things and develop themselves into, need to be commended. And you should be forthright. You should be forthcoming. Show up. That's what my man from UK was talking about, the social media thing. It's not about putting the information out there. Show yourself. As I started by doing that at the age of 17, 18, developed a career through that. And through that, who knows, you may even find your future partner in marriage. And then also the kind of fame that you seek from the entertainment industry can also be achieved within this sphere. So the opportunities are there. So these are some of the innovative things that I challenge you, Kwame, and your other youth organizations to champion and then to make good use of that. Governments all over, particularly African countries, have a critical role to play And state institutions like my own Environmental Protection Agency cannot lay back on some of these things. We have got to also support you guys. Finally, we've been talking about the formal sector. We've been talking about the students, school going, talking about establishments where few of you young guys will get the opportunities to be hired on. You serve as secretaries to committees or project coordinators and all that. These are microcosm in the whole sphere. The large chunk of youth are in the informal sector, where Yamin told us they are very much closer to the waste management systems. They are the traders, they are the farmers, they are what have you. I mean, with no knowledge, but they are engaged in some of these things, and out of ignorance and all that, they endanger themselves. How do we get to them? These are the take home. And I hope with the commitment that you do have, with the knowledge that we do have, we all bring together to the fore and then work it out. Thank you very much for your participation. We look forward to seeing you again in a very much more environmentally sound ops management. Thank you.
Thank you.
We just follow it.